Jared lets it roll just long enough to get your pulse going, to get your BP elevated, and listen to that hard rockin' Madison Rising music. And you know, what does that mean? Well, it means it's time for yet another episode of Student of the Gun Radio. And I am your host, Professor Paul, and thank you for joining us this week. We truly appreciate you being out there. We're actually recording this week's show, or part one of this week's show, on Friday. It will be the Friday after Thanksgiving, the 28th of November. And at the Professor Paul household, I'm not going to say any more P's, but at our household, our nuclear family has lots of different jobs in different places. And so actually, the only day that we could get everybody off and not working was Wednesday. So we decided to have the family meal on Wednesday, which meant that Thursday we just picked at leftovers all day long. And now it's Friday and we're back in the studio. And I was telling Jared earlier that I was sitting there working on notes, and I'm trying to think, is today Saturday? Is it Sunday? I'm going to be screwed up until at least Monday when we hit reset. And unlike most people that took a 96-hour weekend, we actually are working through the weekend because we got to get show material ready for you guys so that you'll have it on Monday morning. We know how you wait with bated breath until the next episode of Student of the Gun Radio comes out.
Yeah, I couldn't. Last week, I was having technical difficulties with the bonus hour, the grad package hour, the grad program hour. And before, it was like, I don't know what time it was that day, but I had gotten several emails of, hey, was our bonus hour today? If there was, I didn't get it. I was like, I'm getting to it. Sorry, dudes.
Yeah, sometimes.
But then when I sent it out, they all messaged me, hey, I got it now. I was like, okay, good, thanks.
Okay, good. Woo! Well, I'm going to tell you guys something. I'm going to admit something to you. On Wednesday and Thursday, I pretty much deliberately tuned out. Yesterday, I took my phone and I put it on the charger upstairs, and I stayed away from it for hours, like 4 or 5 hours. I just stayed away from the phone. I stayed away from the computer. I didn't even turn the computer on. Or did I? Maybe one time. I don't remember. But we have Thanksgiving, which is supposed to be a day of thanks, a day to get together with family, a day to relax, a day to appreciate your blessings, and all that good stuff. It's kind of a warm, good feeling type of a holiday, right? And then you juxtapose that with all the other nonsense and trash that is going on in the United States of America. And I don't know what to say. I really don't. WTF, America? Can I say WTF, or does that, because that's okay, that's a family-friendly rating, because people have to define it themselves. That's a TLA, by the way. WTF is a TLA. And sometimes we have to speak in TLAs just to keep things clean. Isn't that right? That
is correct.
That's right.
And while we're on the subject of Thanksgiving, and I know this is after Thanksgiving, but it is the first Student of the Gun Radio episode after Thanksgiving. So I'm going to start with Dad. I'm going to put you on the spot. Why don't you tell everyone one thing that you're thankful for?
Oh, one thing that I'm thankful for?
Just one out of the many. Just one.
Out of the many things that I'm thankful for. I'm thankful for the tens of thousands of listeners out there in the Student of the Gun audience. How about you?
That was a good answer. I'm also thankful for every one of you guys that's listening to our voice right now. And in addition to that, I'm thankful for the loving family that I have.
Oh, do you have one of those?
I think so.
As far as you know. Okay.
Yeah, as far as I know. And that's all that matters, right?
So we really, really, really tried hard not to be depressed yesterday, the last couple of days. And really, really, really tried hard not to make too many comments. There's so much going on. And we talked about the lead up. We talked about this last August. And here we are, August, September, October, November. Back in, it's almost like we've got this ridiculously handicapped, slow learning curve here in the United States of America. Now, but before we get into that, because I am going to get into it, I do want to take a moment, and obviously I want to thank Jared for being over there on the other side of the glass, of the other side, the outside of the glass case of emotion. I have to sit inside the glass case of emotion. And Jared hasn't given me oven mitts or a white helmet yet.
I have them. I just haven't given them to him yet.
So that I don't. Well, it's kind of a padded room. I guess you could say this is a half padded room. Hopefully, I don't have to graduate to a 100% fully padded room anytime in the near future. But do people even know what padded rooms are anymore? Do they still have those padded rooms?
Yeah, the little children play centers.
Oh, padded rooms, yeah. Well, we're thankful. I'm thankful for you guys out there in the audience. I'm thankful for Jared out there on the other side working the knobs and dials. And he's got 1, 2, 3 monitors going right now. 2 important monitors, and one of them that has the time on it so that I know exactly how long into the show we've gone. But I want to this is it. By the time we're going to not mention that because by the time this airs, it's going to be December 1st. So the Brownells special Back in Black promo will actually be over by then. So, all right, well, here's the deal. The Back in Black promo ended on December 1st, but that doesn't mean that you still can't go to brownells.com and check out all the neat, cool, interesting stuff that they've got going on there. They've got pieces and parts and ammunition and scopes and all that stuff. Bottom line, if you own a gun, Brownells has something in their catalog for you. That's the bottom line. We want to thank our buddies at Colt.com. Check out the LE901, their 1911 pistols, and all that jazz from them. It's real easy. Just go to Colt.com. XS Sights, the fastest sights in any light. And their website is pretty easy. It's XSSights.com. Velocity triggers. You guys, you heard us talking about them, and we got an email from one of you students of the gun here this week. We were talking about the project that we're going to do that centers around the velocity triggers and how we're going to be using lower receivers and stocks, and we were to deal with our friends at Element Arms up there in Minnesota. And one of you guys out there wrote to us and said, hey, I live in Minnesota, and I went over to Element Arms, and I talked to Dustin, and he said that you should have your lower receivers and stocks really, really soon so you can build those rifles and talk about them on the radio and feature them on TV and all that good stuff.
We've got an extended version of the SOTG mob out there, Dustin, so you better be careful.
Yeah, no kidding. So that's excellent. We think that's great. He doesn't know about the student of the gun posse, or maybe he's learning about the posse. Jared, do you want to talk about what's going on in the world and I guess ground zero in outside of St. Louis, Ferguson? You want to do that? Is it time to do that?
I don't really want to do it, but we kind of need to do it.
I don't really want to do it either, but I feel that if I don't speak on it, it'll be kind of like, I don't know. All right. Well, you know what's going to make me happy? What's going to make me happy? I know it's a rhetorical question.
I know it's going to make you happy.
If you will play the new, we've got a Ferguson update theme for you guys. And Ferguson, Missouri update theme. When Jared plays this update theme, that's going to make me a little bit happy, and then we can go ahead and talk about what's going on. So, Jared, go ahead and let the student of the gun audience hear the official Ferguson update theme. Let's get it on. That was the late, great Marvin Gaye probably one of the most distinctive guitar licks in the history of guitar licks. Let's get it on. And I suppose that, see, you guys all thought something else was going to happen, didn't you? That's right. Well, the first story we've got is from stlouistoday.com, and it's actually, the website is stltoday.com. That's abbreviation for St. Louis, for some of you in Rio Linda there. Oh, let me see. Here we go. Dateline is Dateline November 25th, 2014. Story posted at 6:15 a.m. In Ferguson, businesses burn, police cars torched as violence much worse than in August. And I saw this headline, Jared, and I wanted to smack my head into a wall. I really did. Every one of you out there in the listening audience, every one, I would say, maybe except for, I don't know, is there anybody out there listening to the sound of my voice that didn't know that the thugs, the reprobates, the lowlifes, the puke faces out there in the world were just waiting for an excuse for bad behavior? Did anybody not know that?
So after you get done finishing this thought, I'm going to blow your mind with a comparison that somebody gave me of this.
Okay.
Instance.
Well, what I can't figure out, and you might want to go ahead and just do it, but what I can't figure out is how I keep seeing these all week long. I've seen posts on Twitter and Facebook and in the titles and news stories and what have you that use words like this. They use words like shock, surprise, dismay. What else? But folks, how in the world can anybody claim that they were shocked by the reaction, that they were surprised, that they were overwhelmed, that they... What are you talking about? They've got websites and social media pages. They've had them for weeks, if not months, leading up to this. How to Riot 101. This was very well planned, very well organized, and the crazy thing is we, as the good people, we all knew it. Now, Jared, go ahead and give me your, how was this put to you? What was the comparison given?
Okay, you ready for this?
I suppose that I have to be.
So I was told that, I don't remember how he put it. Basically, he said that, why is this wrong? Why is this writing wrong when a few months ago a bunch of ranchers held federal officials at gunpoint and nobody was shot?
What?
Yeah.
Who said this? So somebody said this to you, like why is it wrong for what's going on? Why is what's happening in Ferguson wrong?
Basically, but
what happened out there at the Bundy Ranch wasn't wrong?
Yeah, why is
they're
this
making the comparison
different
between
than,
the two?
Yeah, than that.
Well, first of all, there was no looting, theft, robbery, assault, rape, murder, and I don't believe that the ranchers and the supporters of the ranchers held the federal agents at gunpoint. I don't know where they get that from. They held them at gunpoint.
Probably CNN or something.
They held them at gunpoint? So you're telling me that the federal agents were prisoner or hostage?
Last time I checked, it was a peaceful protest until the feds brought guns.
Well, it was a peaceful protest until they showed up and started tasing people and taking the cattle and killing the cattle, and that's a fact. We know that for a fact. I've besides the videos, I actually know people that were there that saw the condition of the cattle after the federal agents left, the ones that they killed, the ones that were in such bad condition that they actually had to be put down. So I love how the people try and make these moral comparisons. They're like, oh, it's no different than the American Revolution. Yeah, yes, it is. All right. And first of all, you know what? If you as the disingenuous, lying, I'm trying to keep it clean. I really am, Jared. But the people that are quote unquote protesting the result of the grand jury, and just as a point of clarification, the grand jury did not find Officer Wilson innocent or not guilty. You know, and I've actually seen that. They're like, after the not guilty, it wasn't a trial. There was no verdict rendered. If you weren't such a freaking tool out there, if some of these people actually paid attention in school and in junior high and high school, they would know that the judicial process, when there is a potential felony, they have a grand jury, and the grand jury convenes to determine whether or not there is sufficient evidence to issue charges or a bill. When someone is not indicted, they call that no bill. That means that the grand jury does not find enough evidence to continue on. This is a very, very important part of the legal system. Because otherwise what you would have is you would have tens of thousands of cases where it was a he said, she said. You're like, well, and a lot of these idiots on these talking heads on CNN, MSNBC, whatever, they're like, well, that's bullcrap. They should have just taken, if Darren Wilson is actually innocent, if he really is, then they should have taken it to trial so that everyone could see that blah, blah. So what? The whole purpose of the grand jury system is so that the already overworked court system doesn't become even more overworked. So what, these ninnies, these nincompoops on, the mainstream news media, these talking heads, one of them's like, well, they should have, to satisfy the crowd and to satisfy everyone that's paying attention, they should have taken it to trial. And then, if there's no evidence of wrongdoing, then he would be exonerated. Really? Is that what you think? So every time there's a situation where someone's been accused by the mob of doing something, we're going to skip over the grand jury and take everyone to trial. Yeah. Let me see. Why is it a bad idea? Well, it's a bad idea for several reasons. Number one, so what you're going to do is you're going to waste tens of thousands, if not millions of dollars worth of taxpayer money. You're going to force the accused, who, even though there's not enough evidence to file charges against them, you're going to force that person to spend $100,000, $200,000 on attorney's fees, run them through the ringer, run them through the system. And then on the other end, we'll say, oh, well, yeah, they were found not guilty. Oh, and then never mind the 12 jurors that you're going to bring in and make them sit there for, months on end. Folks, the whole reason behind the grand jury system is to keep cases that don't have substantial evidence out of trial. That's the purpose. Okay? And like I said, if some of your friends out there in the world and your relatives and these talking heads, it amazes me how people can get on these news shows and radio shows and yammer on about something that they have not one clue about. But yet they're the experts. This is what they should have done. Really? Is that what they should have done? Okay. Well, they didn't, because and part two, now we have people from the commander-in-chief, and I use that term very loosely, the usurper-in-chief. We got people from the usurper-in-chief all the way down. They're talking about the flawed system, yada, yada, yada. And we need to change the system. We need new laws, different laws. No, we don't. What we need is to obey the laws that are already on the books. And we actually need fewer laws, because right now there are so many that they overlap, they're convoluted. And right now, folks, let's face it, there are laws on the books that either A, don't need to be there, or B, overlap others. The whole idea that, well, this situation in Ferguson just proves that we need to revamp the justice system. How are we going to do that? Are we going to revamp it so that we're going to change the justice system to mob rule? So now we'll go out and we'll take a vote of the people in the street, and based upon their emotions, we'll decide whether or not we're going to convict people. Is that what we want in America? And is the justice system in the United States of America perfect? Well, no, it's not. Is there a justice system in the world that is perfect? No, there is not. And what you should know, Jared, this is one of the reasons why children, junior high kids, high school kids, why they used to be forced, or part of their curriculum was world history, geography, social studies, and so forth, so that you could make a comparison to what goes on here in America, the history of what went on in the world, and why we have the laws and rules that we have. Because as a human race, we should be improving year after year after year. We should be learning from our mistakes. And that's what we did in 1776. We learned from our mistakes.
But that takes effort, and there's a whole bunch of people nowadays that aren't really down with the effort.
No, well, not only that, but dude, let's move on. So, here's what I would say to you, Mr. and Mrs. America: A, stop acting surprised, stop acting shocked. But what we saw in Ferguson and other places, there was reports of violence in Oakland. Where did the person get run over by the car? Minnesota, someplace. Frozen brain people up there in Minnesota.
There was, I'm pretty sure there was some stuff in Atlanta as well.
Philadelphia, I believe in Philadelphia they had some issues there. New York. So basically, cesspools, areas that are, what do we say, ruled by rats. So we've got these large populations of rats all across the United States of America, and the rats are just crawling all over each other now. Now, let me ask you guys this. From a practical standpoint, if we can, via Twitter and Instagram and Tumblr or whatever the heck, if the other side, if the left, if the progressives, if they can organize civil disorder and riots and looting and so forth with their phones over something like this. Now, is this the first time a person who was not holding a gun was shot by law enforcement? I'm going to go ahead and say no. This isn't the first time. So why are we taking this opportunity? Well, because we never let a crisis go to waste, right? Never let it. What? Somebody said something, Jared. Was back in August, somebody quoted or penned a quote, something like ARTR. I don't remember. What is that? What is ARTR?
Any reason to riot?
Any reason to riot. Was it this year? Oh, it was last. When did Comrade Barry decide to shut the government down? Was it in, or he decided to take advantage of the government shutdown? Was it October 1st of last year with the veterans?
I don't remember the exact date, but it was in October.
And within a couple of days of that, the EBT machines went down at Walmart in like 7 states. And what did we get out of that? We got dozens, if not hundreds, of cell phone videos of people just freaking out, crashing through Walmart and the grocery stores like a bunch of animals.
Well, and our buddy Jared Lojek, he posted something on Facebook earlier, and it says, "Watch the footage of people fighting, killing," and he says, "Yes, there's already one death confirmed, and trampling over other human beings for a 40% discount on crap they don't need to begin with."
Yeah.
He says, "Now imagine you're in that crowd, but instead of an electronic toy, you're all competing for one of the 5 last loaves of bread."
Yep.
And,
folks,
I mean, imagine that. If people are going to fight over what happened in Ferguson, if they're going to do that, if they're going to fight over discounts on Black Friday, imagine what could happen.
You know, I got a question for you. Why's it got to be black?
See, that's what I'm wondering. Why are there no protests to get rid of Black Friday?
Well, because if they get rid of it, then they don't get the cheap TVs.
Oh.
Duh. Cheap
Well,
TVs.
so they're saying everything black is cheap?
I don't know. No. You do know the real reason, right? I don't have to explain it.
Yeah, I know the real reason.
Did you see the thing that was floating around social media about how the history of Black Friday dates back to slavery? And
Seriously?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
People probably believe it, too.
They do, because it's online. It has to be, right?
How about you do some research? Do a little bit of learning about business, and you might understand what Black Friday is.
People don't know what being in the red means. Being in the red, in the black, they don't know what that means. But let's move on. I don't want to. I really don't. You guys, bless your hearts, and we love you out there. And we've had lots of stories. There's so many stories of violence, looting, robbery, arson, just millions upon millions of dollars worth of damage. And here's something that I'm going to address because it really annoys the ever-loving crap out of me when people say this. When someone's business gets burned down or looted or whatever, and they're like, well, they got insurance. Forget you. Forget you, buddy. They have insurance, so having insurance means it's okay. For all of those people out there that have friends and neighbors or relatives who said to them, well, it's kind of inconvenient that their business got destroyed, but, after it's all over and done with, they got insurance. They're going to come out better on the other end. You don't ever come out better on the other end. You, as a small business owner, doesn't matter how much insurance you have. Hey, let me ask you this. If you hear one of your friends or relatives say, well, it's not good, but they've got insurance, so as long as no one died, that's okay. Really? Say, ask your neighbor Susie, who's a dipstick and says stuff like that. Say, Susie, do you have car insurance? Yes. Do you have a deductible on your car insurance? Yeah. Well, yeah. What's your deductible on your car insurance, Susie? All right. When you have business insurance, you have deductibles on your business insurance too.
And you don't get your assets back as fast as you get your car back.
No.
And they don't have loaner assets.
Yeah. People are like, your car gets in a wreck. You've got a $500 deductible. Your insurance company provides you with a rental car because you got rental car insurance. So you go out, get a check, and shop for a new car, and eventually you get yourself a new car, and you're happy, right? Well, okay, great. You're still down $500. If you have a small business and it's looted, burned, destroyed, then you have to go through all. Do you think they're just going to cut you a check tomorrow? And let's say they do, but they don't. But let's just say that in 2 days you get a check for $167,000. So what you can do is you can just go ahead and start right back. There's a big truck somewhere that has everything you had in your store. There's a big, semi-truck full of everything you had, and it's just going to back up to you, and you're going to unload it and start all over again. No. You're going to be out probably thousands of dollars. Do you have insurance that makes up for the lost sales, the lost revenue? If there's lost revenue insurance out there, somebody write me a letter and say, oh, yeah, if your store burns down and you can show that you made so much. There might be. I'm not aware of it, and I can't imagine that it's free. It's not cheap.
It would probably be a pretty hefty price.
Yeah, because how do you do that? And here's what's intangible, something you can't put insurance on. Anybody out there who's ever started a business, run a business, had a small business, it's your blood, sweat, and tears, the man hours that you, your workers, your family, that you put into a business, to building it. No one can write you a check to make up for those. And quite frankly, what have we talked about the scars of victimization? No check can make up for the victimization that you get. They can't write you, there's no dollar amount that they can put on a check that makes you no longer feel like a victim.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Where were the armed business owners that banded together to stop the looters?
There were some. Actually,
there were not enough to satisfy me.
No, there weren't. I did get an email today. I think it was at studentofthegun.com. Got an email from someone who said that there were people, oath keepers, that actually went to these buildings and got up on the roofs like they did in L.A. The Korean store owners with rifles and so forth. But now, Jared, here's something that happened. You had, and I know we're getting deeper into this, but you had a Little Caesars, you had all these different auto zones and auto parts and whatever that burned down, the CVS, what are all those? Are those little?
They're chain.
They're all chains. $100,000 right here on the table. Okay, I don't have $100,000, but I'm going to bet you that each and every one of them has a corporate policy. I mean, let's face it. I know that if you have a major chain like a CVS or whatever, or Rite Aid, what do they write into their corporate policies? Remember, we talked about this before, that everyone who works in the store, at the store, must be unarmed. So you can't, if you have CVS and the corporate policy is that everyone who works here is forbidden to have any type of, weapon, not just guns, but anything, knives, pepper spray, mace, OC, whatever, they're forbidden to have any of that. How are you going to get armed people at a CVS, a Little Caesars, a AutoZone, a whatever, you name it, all these places that got destroyed and burned down? Well, you don't. Let's face it. So would you?
I think we've got a proposal for anybody who wants to be in business. How about Student of the Gun will franchise, and we will. Maybe we could provide them.
You want
all
a
with
Student
arms.
of the Gun franchise?
Yeah, we could
Student
do
of the Gun University franchise.
Student of the Gun University franchise, and we will provide you with what you need to arm yourself. How about that?
Everything you need. Yeah. Arm themselves with what? Guns and stuff?
Yeah. Guns and the everything from empty hands up to a gun. How about that?
I'll give them the education. I'm not giving them the material. But think about it. If you were the second shift manager at a CVS pharmacy in Ferguson, and you knew this was going down, would you go home, get a shotgun or a rifle or whatever, and come back to the CVS and stand in front of it? When you know that the corporate policy forbids you to, most of these places still have these ridiculous, if there's ever a robbery, don't fight back, do whatever they say, don't make eye contact, look at the floor, be a sheep. If you refuse by not making eye contact, you actually make it easier for the felon to kill you, psychologically easier. You know that, right? Because you're a student of the gun. But folks, all I have to say is WTF, America. How can you act surprised? And if you're not prepared, I'm a little bit depressed, quite frankly. I don't know. I don't want to talk about this.
Let's just move on to the next story here.
All right, and the next story is
it's also depressing.
It's also depressing.
Not as
and
bad.
It's depressing that in the year 2014 that we're still having this conversation. And let me set the story up for you guys before Jared runs it. Now, some of you folks out there in the Student of the Gun audience, some of you got on me because I shared. That's all I did. A little, I guess, moment of honesty or whatever is everything that goes up on Student of the Gun Facebook. It's not necessarily put up by me. It's one of the Student of the Gun staff people, but. We posted something about a couple of weeks ago, and it was an interview that Ben Carson. And a lot of you guys out there, conservatives, like Ben Carson. You're like, oh, he's our hope. He's the guy. He's the anti-Comrade Barry. Okay, I got you. I understand why you like Ben Carson. You think he's bright, he's articulate, he's African American, or is he African American? Because we don't know where he was born. But the fact of the matter is, is Ben Carson went on. He was interviewed with Glenn Beck, and I think it was last year sometime. And he said he went off and he said something about high capacity automatic weapons and assault weapons, and people who live in urban areas shouldn't be allowed to have them, and people weren't happy with that. And well, anyway, we shared that. We didn't make comment about it. We just shared it. And some of you guys out there you got a case of the butthurt and started posting these comments about, or that was over a year ago, and he's changed his mind since then. And I said, well, first of all, I haven't changed my mind about anything that fundamental about, in the Constitution ever, I don't think. But when you say stupid things and then you get called out on them and then you change your story, well, what does that really say? Do you really genuinely believe that? Or are you just saying it so that people will shut up and leave you alone, or like, oh, okay. Well, and we don't have a personal axe to grind with Ben Carson. I don't. But this was shared with me this morning, and it was an interview that Ben Carson did. He did it on the Hugh Hewitt radio show. Now, I'm not really sure where Hugh Hewitt is out of, but this is an excerpt. And it was our link to the story is Breitbart.com. Breitbart picked it up and reposted it, and they put the audio up. So we're going to put that in the show notes for you guys. And don't forget to go to studentofthegunradio.com for the show notes. And Jared's going to go ahead and play it. It's about a 2.5-minute audio clip, and it starts out with the host's intro, and then Ben starts talking. And I want you to listen to everything that he says, and then after that, we'll take a moment to dissect it and talk about it.
www.realbencarson.com is his website. Of course, Dr. Carson can be followed on Twitter at RealBenCarson. Dr. Carson, welcome. It's good to have you back.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Dr. Carson, was justice done to Michael Brown yesterday?
Well, there are a lot of different ways to look at it. The way I prefer to look at it is there anything good that can come out of such a tragic situation? And I think there is. First of all, I don't think that the police officer did anything wrong. Nevertheless, there are probably additional techniques and knowledge that he could have been given. So all along, we probably need to beef up the instructions for police officers in general so that they don't place themselves in such dangerous situations. And then, as far as the community is concerned, I suspect a lot of people woke up today and said, what did we just do? We burned down establishments from people in our own community, people who've worked hard to do that because we let a bunch of outside agitators come in here and get us riled up. And, I hope people will think back to the days of Dr. Martin Luther King, who was faced with a bunch of people who thought violence was the way, and somehow he convinced them that peaceful demonstrations and conversation and demonstrating to people what was going on would have a better effect. And in fact, it did. It had a profound effect on our nation. But violence is never going to help anything. And the people who came in and agitated are probably sitting up in their hotel room somewhere, sipping wine and eating steak.
Now, you say, I don't think that the police officer did anything wrong. So you have reviewed and have come to the conclusion that the officer, in fact, should not have been charged with anything.
Yeah, he had every right to protect his life. But I do think that there are probably other techniques that could have been used.
Right. Now, if there were other techniques that could have been used, doesn't that suggest he did something wrong?
No, that suggests that he perhaps has not had the maximum training.
Okay. Do you
think... For instance, in a lot of places, police officers aren't even allowed to go into the more dangerous areas by themselves. They're always paired. Or, people use tasers, people learn how to shoot people in the legs to stop them from charging, things of that nature.
Okay.
And I seriously doubt that he'd been given that information.
All right, let's go ahead and dissect that real quick. And you guys all probably jumped out of your seats at the very end there. And all right, get back in your seats. I hope you didn't fall off the treadmill or drive off the side of the road. All right, first of all, Ben Carson, and Congratulations. You know what he didn't say, Jared? He didn't say but.
Oh, he didn't say but.
No, he said nevertheless. So he said, first of all, I don't think that the police officer did anything wrong. Nevertheless, probably additional techniques and knowledge that he could have been given. Well, first of all, Ben Carson, MD, Johns Hopkins Professor Emeritus of Neurosurgery. He's obviously paid his dues. He's an intelligent guy. And when it comes to neurosurgery and being an MD, I would say he's probably pretty sharp. However, nevertheless, when it comes to deadly force scenarios, and when it comes to policing, and when it comes to training police officers, which I have done, I don't think Dr. Carson is the go-to guy. And he said several times, he said, I think and I feel. All right. I feel that. I think that. And feel's actually worse than think. Because feel is, I feel that we should. Well, you're basing that on what? Your emotions? And I'm not attacking Dr. Carson right here with the emotions, but people say that all the time. Well, I feel that da-da-da-da-da-da. And when they say that to me, I think, well, BFD, that's another TLA, just because you feel it. I feel they should have done this based upon your what? Thousands of hours of experience? All you pilots out there, if you talk to somebody who just got their pilot's license and they've logged X number of hours, they logged the minimum number of hours to get their license. And you've got stacks of logbooks and you have thousands of hours of flight time. And one of these guys say to you, well, I feel like, what do you think? You're like, yeah, that's nice, Sparky. I'm glad you feel that way. Go over with the other kids and sit down and be quiet. Let the adults talk. When it comes to defending your life against deadly force, we don't take the Danny Glover lethal weapon advice. I've been joking about this. Jared, how long have we been joking about that? I shoot him in the leg just to stop him.
A long time.
For at least like 30 years now, however long it's been since Lethal Weapon was made, we've been joking about that. Because it was ridiculous when it was said. When Danny Glover, who is all signs and indications, is a leftist, liberal elitist. He's a Hollywood puke face. When Danny Glover said those words, and I know there were just lines that were written for him. Don't write me letters. But it was stupid when it was said, and it's stupid now. We don't shoot people in the legs just to stop them. It doesn't work like that, folks. Here is the deal. What's the deal, Professor Paul? If you pull out a firearm, if you hold a firearm in your hand, it doesn't matter whether it's a rifle, pistol, shotgun, doesn't matter. If you point said firearm at said human being and fire, that is exercising deadly force upon them. You understand that, right? We've talked about it. It's 2014. It's November of 2014. I cannot believe that I'm still having to say this. But when you get someone like Ben Carson who goes on a radio show and says to everyone who's listening that the police officer in question did what he did because he wasn't trained properly in the techniques of shooting people in the legs, that is horse crap. It's horse manure. But why is it so dangerous? It's so dangerous because all of your ignorant friends and neighbors, they hear that and they're like, well, I was listening to the radio the other day and Dr. Carson was on there and he said that there are some police departments that teach, that they teach that you should, shoot people in the legs. I'm like, folks, I've been in the firearms training, shooting, carrying, gun world for 3 decades. Not one time, not one firearms training course, not one law enforcement course, military, have I ever been there and they said, all right, today we're going to practice shooting people in the legs just to stop them. It doesn't work like that. It doesn't make it not lethal force. If you discharge a firearm at a human, that is deadly force. If you're justified in doing that, then it is justifiable homicide or what have you. If the person dies and you're justified and you were correct, your actions were correct, it's okay. If they don't die and your actions were not correct, it doesn't make it okay. People think, well, you know, I might not be justified in killing them, but I'm justified in shooting them in the legs. Wrong. If you weren't justified in pulling out a gun and pointing it at a human, it doesn't matter where in their bodies you shoot them. You still could be you still could be charged with attempted homicide, negligent homicide, aggravated assault. Folks, flush out your head. If you have to use a firearm to defend your life and you know, if I don't use my gun, this person could kill me or someone else, whether or not they expire is immaterial. We put bullets into Homo sapiens in the boiler room area, in the important stuff, to make them stop quick, fast, and in a hurry, whatever behavior it is that is causing us a deadly threat. So please, no disrespect to Dr. Ben Carson, but Dr. Ben Carson needs to get some schooling. He needs to get into a class, he needs to get some training, and he needs to stop taking his lethal force advice from Hollywood and Danny Glover. Now, Jared's got the clock up there, and I can see it, and that tells me that we're coming right to the end of this episode. Thank you very much for joining us this week for part 1 of this week's episode. We've got a part 2 coming up, and folks, lots of stuff. Part 2, we're going to talk about Smith & Wesson throwing their hat into the Army pistol ring. We talked previously about how the Army was searching for a new gun, and looks like Smith & Wesson has officially announced that they're in, or at least they're going to be bidding on it. They're going to submit a pistol to the Army for testing. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about Ralphie and his BB gun. We're going to talk about our Excess Sights good guy wants to talk about whether or not rubber bullets are a good idea. Now, don't forget about the bonus hour, or actually the bonus hour, which is now the grad program. If you sign up for the grad program, you get the newsletter, the tactical tutor every month. Every week, you get the bonus hour of Student of the Gun Radio, and you're automatically entered to receive discounts. Jared? Discounts on training, online material, and we're giving away a car, CW9 with Laser Max, and a holster to go with it. That's all to our grad program subscribers. So if you're a grad program guy or girl, you're automatically signed up. Make sure that you're watching Student of the Gun every week, Monday nights at 9 on Dish Network Channel 266, or you can catch us 24 hours a day on Roku, Apple TV, Chromecast, and, of course, at studentofthegun.com. If you have an internet connection, you can watch the show. All right. Well, clock on the wall says, time for me to go. Ladies and gentlemen, we will be back with part 2 of this week's episode in just a moment. Remember, you're a beginner once, but you should indeed be a student for life.